Let's check out the RG28xx by Anbernic. The Anbernic RG28xx was sent over to me as a review unit from Go Game Geek. They did not see this video, all opinions are my own, and no money was exchanged in any way. And here it is in all its glory. It's pretty tiny as far as the buttons and the D-pad are concerned. And this is something that I noticed. I don't know why, but that seems to be typical of the XX line. I can't tell if the rattle is coming from the shoulder buttons or maybe the volume button. You can see on the left side we have some volume buttons, we have a D-pad, start and select on the front. Everything just seems to be a little bit smaller than what we're used to. Front-facing speaker, which is cool, even though it's mono. And then up top we have a menu button, the charging port, some shoulder buttons, and we have HDMI out, which is super cool. Although the one thing I will say that is weird, there is no Bluetooth. So if you're going to plug this in to do HDMI out, you're just going to use the handheld as a controller, which is a little strange, but you know, everybody's different. Here's the SD card. You can have two SD cards. This is the stock card, and you can throw in a games card if you would like to. Headset jack also at the bottom. And nothing really on the back. Shoulder buttons are kind of cool. Little different from what we have seen with Anbernic, so we'll see if those end up working. There is a little bit of a curve on the right side underneath the speaker, which is cool. The buttons are nice. They feel like your standard rubber membrane buttons. They are just a little bit smaller than what we're used to. Usually Anbernic has some big, nice, chunky buttons, and for whatever reason, I feel like they could have definitely thrown in maybe a little bit bigger of a D-pad or some bigger buttons in here. I can't get over the rattle. The shoulder buttons are nice. They feel pretty usable, so we'll have to check that out in gameplay. And now let's check out, just to show you how big or small this device is. Here we have the GKD Pixel, and you can see, just to show you, I'm going to flip this around and show you the size of the buttons. So the buttons are really close to what is on the GKD Pixel, which is tiny, and makes sense what is on the GKD Pixel. Screen's a little bit bigger than what is on the Pixel as well. And here is the big brother of this device, the RG28xx. Now you can see that the H has joysticks on it. And here we have the Miyoo Mini Plus, and you can see how big that screen is, or small on the Anbernic. So it's a pretty tiny screen. And here we have an original Miyoo Mini. And these are supposed to be pretty similar as far as screen size goes. You can see the width of the Miyoo Mini is a little bit bigger, but you can definitely tell this is more of a micro handheld in that aspect. I really wish that they would have gone with a bigger D-pad here. You can see that it works on the Miyoo Mini. It's a little bit bigger of a D-pad, and the buttons are a little bit bigger. So that might not be bad for my hands, but you know, any of you guys out there that, you know, you have big giant man hands that you're going to be jamming on these buttons, you might not be able to play this for very long, and definitely notice how tiny these buttons and the D-pad are. So let's check out the specs briefly. You can see that this has a 2.8-inch full view IPS screen, and it's OCA laminated. The resolution is 640 by 480, and the specs aren't, you know, super big. This can play PS1, and they threw Dreamcast and PSP on here. Now, obviously, with the tiny screen, the 2.8-inch tiny screen, you may not get the best PSP and Dreamcast experience. So, like I always say, I would treat those as bonus systems. But it is still kind of cool to get those systems on this form factor. Now, one thing that I will admit, I am not a huge fan of the Anbernic stock firmware. It leaves a lot to be desired. I just wish that they could jazz it up a little bit. No button. No button sound. Make it stop. And now that we have the god-awful button sound off, now we can actually go through the menu. So you can see there are two different sections. You can go into RetroArch, or you can go into the emulators by themselves and check out the games from there. I've been told that this isn't as terrible, and it works for what it is. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. There is some custom firmware that's going to be out there, so I may dabble with that for a further review. Now, one thing I do want to mention, even though you're going to see Pico 8 right here, this does not have Wi-Fi either. So you will not have Pico 8 Native Explorer ever on this, unfortunately, because there isn't a Wi-Fi chip in this. So you can load Pico 8 games on it, and you'll just have to run with it from there. Now, there are a couple added extra features, which if you want these, keep in mind you're going to be using this on a 2.8-inch screen, but you do have the option of making this an MP3 player. You can throw some videos on there, so if you have a bigger SD card, I suppose, or ebooks. Again, that's up to you if you want to end up doing that. Kind of a tiny screen for that, but you do you. So let's get to the most important aspect, which is the gameplay. I am going to start out with Rampage, one of my favorite Sega Master System games. It's probably, at least in my opinion, it's the best. I don't know. If you're a big Rampage fan, leave a comment down below. Let me know. My only tiny gripe is that it's using a different core. It's probably using the Genesis Plus core instead of the Pico Drive core. But we can see if we can change that. So the sound is a little bit different. It's not supposed to sound like that. So the gameplay, I mean, it works. The buttons and the D-pad are just so small. It's a little, you definitely need to take a moment to get used to this. So to exit the game, you need to hit the menu button up at top. It's a little strange that they placed it up there, since you're going to have to hit that all the time to get out of the game. But here you would just close out of the content and then hit quit RetroArch. You can probably go in here and maybe change the emulator, but I'm going to go through and see what else we can do with it. Let's check out 1944 from Capcom. I mean, the screen looks pretty good as far as arcade is concerned. I like that there aren't any black bars on the top or the sides. I did notice that they do have a vertical arcade, so we'll definitely have to check out that. But this looks pretty good. The D-pad is pretty good. It's just tiny. And rattles. Lots and lots of rattles. So here is the vertical arcade section, and you can see up at the top you want to use R2 and R1 for the start and select to actually mimic the coin, and then if you can see you actually flip it vertically and you use the normal start and select buttons for the shoot buttons. You don't use any of these buttons, you use those buttons. So this might not be for everybody, but playing a game of Tate mode that it's a vertical shoot 'em up, it's pretty cool. Again, you may not like this, but I think it works pretty well on the screen. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it's a little strange that you got to use the start and select buttons, but it kind of works on this device. I'm sure you heard the speaker in the rest of the games, but this is a mono speaker, and I think it works really well. I don't really have any complaints about it. It's pretty loud, does the job. I do like that it's a front-facing speaker, and I feel like that definitely helps things. If you put a mono speaker down at the bottom and your hands are covering it, that's definitely not going to sound so great. So I think that they definitely made a smart decision placing the speaker in the front. But probably maybe when they decided to do that, that's when they decided let's make some smaller buttons and the D-pad on the front. So it's a give or take thing. I wish they would do both because I really think that they could probably have spaced out the buttons just a little bit and really done everything. I mean, and not to throw it with their competitor, but you'll definitely see that with the Miu A30 when I get that. Let's take a close look at the screen. You can see it looks pretty good as far as the resolution goes, and all the viewing angles look really nice. Now, speaking of the screen, this is something that I actually didn't notice, but you can see it in earlier footage, that when I got this out of the box, the screen itself, the paint underneath the bezel, it looks like that it's starting to peel. I don't know if the screen is coming off, the glue is not working, but you can tell it almost looks like the screen itself is broken, but it's not. It's paint. It's the paint that is the bezel or the pretend bezel around the screen. But the screen is definitely, at the top. I think that the glue is definitely coming unhinged. So just something that I wanted to show off. Again, this is a review unit that I got from Go Game Geek. I am going to reach out to them and just let them know about it. But if you happen to see this, Hopefully no other user gets this, and maybe it's just a freak coincidence and kind of goes along with some of my, not so great experiences with the Anbernic XX devices. But anyway, that's just my whole take on it. But hopefully nobody else has to experience this, but it is something that I did want to point out and show everybody. If you do happen to get a device with this issue, I would definitely reach out to whoever you get it through, whether it's Go Game Geek or Anbernic themselves, and see if they can replace it or what they can do for you. Hopefully they can take care of you with that. So, I think I kind of like it. I'm not completely sold because it's so tiny. The buttons and the D-pad are just minuscule, but it works. As you could see with the game testing, I definitely tested out Dreamcast, PSP. Don't get this if you are looking to get a pocket Dreamcast or PSP device. There's only a handful of Dreamcast games. I didn't test all of them out, but this is not a Dreamcast, handheld. They're more bonus games. Two big things that I would, three. We'll say three. So, three big things that I will say. There is no Bluetooth, which I kind of knew. I mean, I don't know why you would need Bluetooth on this, unless you were going to plug it into a TV, do HDMI out, and then plug in a controller. Okay, I feel like at that point you should get a more powerful device. But there's also, with the Bluetooth, no Bluetooth, I mean, there isn't any audio out, so it's not like you can hook up some headphones and, listen to it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't, there isn't that capability. I don't think with anything unless it's Android, so I could be wrong about that. The other thing with no Bluetooth, there's no Wi-Fi, which stinks quite a bit. This just screams I should be playing retro achievements. Go through your old games and get all your retro achievements, but there's no Wi-Fi, so you can't connect to that. So that's incredibly sad. The other thing is, this is a maraca, as you heard. So, if you are Harry Belafonte and want to shake, shake, shake Sonora, that's great. But I feel like the new user would maybe not enjoy this. They're also not going to open this up, take it apart, put some tape in, and mod it and help, get the buttons not shaking like a maraca. But again, I'm not a huge... I hate when they rattle. I just do. I don't know what Anbernic does, or doesn't do. Stop making rattly buttons, please. I really want to like your devices a little bit more and have them rattle. I can't stop doing that. So, anyway, honestly though, it's not a bad little device. The speaker is great. It's loud. It's clear. There's only one speaker. It's only a mono speaker, so it's not terrible. There is a cool little feature that I know I said that there's no Bluetooth audio or no Bluetooth at all, but there is a headset jack. So you could load this with all of your MP3s. That you could use this as a little MP3 player, go into the woods where there's no Wi-Fi and just hold yourself up and not be around anybody for weeks at a time. Maybe only a couple days. I don't think the battery's going to last a week. Yeah, and then you can be good. You can also do an ebook, so that'll be good while you're out in the woods and hanging out with some foxes and rabbits. You can read them a story. Maybe they'll like a bedtime story. Fox and the Hound? I don't know. So the vertical shooter section was kind of cool. I like that. I'm very interested to see about the custom firmware that is going to be out. I'm a big fan of Batocera, so once Newly, I believe it's called Newly, Cannoli, whatever. Anyway, that fork of Batocera is out. I will definitely try to throw that on here, have a video out on that, and enjoy that. But the software, and I hate to say it because I always like to yell about Anbernic software, it's not half bad. It really isn't. You just have to go through and figure out where everything is, and then you're fine. I don't know. It's going to grow on me. I don't know if it's going to take the pocket place of my Miyoo Mini Plus or even my Miyoo Mini to, where I grab it, throw it in my pocket, and take it on my daily errands or journeys or things like that. And who knows? But that remains to be seen. So those are my thoughts, not yours. Let me know in the comments below if you are a huge fan of this, if you picked one up, what you think of it, or are waiting to get the Miyoo A30. I myself, I'm waiting to get that in, so I'm really interested to see how that is going to perform against this, because there's some firmware updates that hopefully will help the Miyoo A30, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and even share this video with someone who needs a maraca. No, who needs a little tiny device, a little tiny retro handheld that they want to put in their pocket and take it with them forever, everywhere, and go into the woods and listen to their MP3 players and read ebooks. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome, everyone, and go play some games.